Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode. Today our guest is Adam Harris from Slow Bottled Sunday. Welcome.
Hey Shane.
Pleased to see you again.
Yeah,
So
nice to see you.
awesome. So Slow Body Sunday preserves BC's harvest in rich and unique condiments. They're vegan, which is amazing, gluten-free, low sugar, low sodium flavors, are loaded with whole foods and help all with a taste for adventure. Savor summer's bounty year round and in every meal. Uh, Regimen in BC growing food and reducing food waste, which is we love so much, right? I mean, just good all around. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this product, how long you've been in business and why.
Yeah, so we launched just over a year ago. My business partner Nate Fraser, who's a lifelong chef, him and I kind of had a fateful encounter just before COVID, where I was living on my family's Salt Spring multi-generational farm and contemplating different ways to bring a farm to bottle product to market. And I took a drive through the Okanagan, and it was the first time that I'd been there in over 20 years. And I kind of just had this like aha awakening about the abundance available in BC and the abundance of the BC foodscape. And I came back to Salt Spring after that and didn't really, couldn't imagine how I was going to kind of be involved in the Okanagan food system because my life is really tied to the islands.
Great.
And within about a week of getting back here, I got a phone call from an old acquaintance, Nate, who was trying to get a farm to bottle concept off the ground. And he lived in the Okanagan, had a facility there, and was looking for somebody with a bit more of a business background to help him. And so we started talking, and turned out that we had amazing kind of symmetry
Right.
and chemistry and really complementary skills, while having a very similar idea of what was important to us when we're creating a business
Right.
and the value what we wanted to add to BC grown food.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so then we actually became official partners the day the WHO declared a global pandemic in 2020. And then obviously, that happened. And then
You'll never forget that day.
we'll never forget that day. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But it allowed us to really talk about what was important to us. And we have slightly different but very complementary ideas about really what drives us. For Nate, it's a very, very much the food, the flavor, the connection piece,
Right.
people around a table sharing a summer Sunday meal, which I love. But I studied the food systems and food waste, especially at university. So I come at it a little bit more from wanting to save loads of food from going to waste.
Right.
And so together we we have this awesome kind of symbiosis of kind of reasons why it's important. But both of us, it's really about adding value to BC grown food in the most intuitive way that we can imagine.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's a good story. I mean, that makes two good partners too, right? It's always like when you kind of come at it from different ways, that's how a business, really, really works well. So,
Mm-hmm.
so tell us a little bit more about your product, and then we'll go into a little more of the business side.
Yeah, so our product, so we start each of our product by first surveying the foodscape and thinking about what food we want to add value to, primarily what food is available that has a high quantity of seasonal waste, and then creating recipes that is kind of the shortest route from that product to consumer, to tables and to the consumer. And so we um, and for each of our products, it's fundamental that the first ingredient is a whole BC grown fruit that we source ourselves from a local farm. So it's very much a farm to bottle. And so we've got a cherry barbecue sauce, which is a pound of fresh cherries per bottle, an old fashioned ketchup made with plums, a peach habanero hot sauce, and a chipotle cherry taco burger and grill sauce.
Man, I'm
And
getting hungry.
yeah, they're amazing. Like they're so rich, and they really are a celebration of whole BC grown food. And then we also last year did a green tomato relish, which was available during Christmas. And and then we've got 3 flavors that are going to hit the market for this coming Christmas season.
Amazing. So, that's what's been the biggest challenge starting the business and getting it to where it is right now?
Um, yeah, so man, the biggest challenge is
Or the
because
biggest challenges.
the
That's
biggest,
probably a
yeah, yeah,
5-hour podcast in itself, right?
yeah. I mean, the biggest. Well, I would say that the biggest unique challenge comes from not using processed food as our principal ingredient.
Right.
So, most sauce companies, big or small, really rely on tomato paste or ketchup or their derivatives or canned tomatoes or things that have, that are relatively easy to source and you can get them any time of the year and have a very consistent quality to them when it comes to cooking them.
Right.
So that has been, all sorts of learning. And there's not really a lot of people that we can talk to, get
Right.
advice because, yeah, there's not really anything else like it. So,
Right. That's
yeah, so
amazing. I mean, that's always it's always interesting when people say that because that's always the hardest challenge, but one of the best signs too, right? So,
absolutely.
if you get to lead it and pioneer it, it's always going to be the hardest, but the reward's always going to be a little bigger in the end then. So,
Absolutely. And I've met probably 30,000 people at events and markets over the last 12 months.
right.
And the amount of people who have, just so easily been able to connect with that idea and the value of it and, thanking me for doing this is really like, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of learning, but people are really resonating with the novelty of what we're doing and the importance and the value of it. So that, really is the fuel that drives us.
Right. Awesome. That's amazing. So, did you guys bootstrap? Did you try and raise money? How did that all come about to actually start the business?
Yeah, both. We did
Both, yeah.
both. Yeah, we've got yeah, I'd say at this point everything we've done
Right.
everything. We've bootstrapped. Both of us are living very, very frugal
Yeah.
lives
Yeah.
and giving a lot of time and energy. But we've also got yeah, we've had some institutional loans, some
Right.
private loans,
Yeah.
and yeah, we actually just converted a small round of financing last week, and
Okay.
it was actually like, I mean, knock on wood, it was because of the novelty and because of the traction that we're gaining. It's nice to see that kind of support is
Holy.
is available. Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
That's not always easy because a lot of times everyone's looking to prove your concept somewhat before they decide to let's play a little bit together, right? So it's
Yeah,
always the toughest part at that start, right? So
yeah, yeah. Can I go back to the challenges?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, another big challenge, is sourcing ingredients, especially bottles.
Right.
Sourcing bottles, like, and it was difficult before COVID, but since COVID, it's just been. I mean, I would have never imagined how much time and energy I would spend to try to source bottles.
Really, hey? And that's just because just because in general of the supply chain issues now?
Yeah, well, a big issue is that North America essentially doesn't have any sort of glass manufacturing industry. So like even like yeah, there's very little glass being manufactured in North America. So it's almost
Wow.
all come from China. So there's a distributor in Vancouver that everybody uses, and they get all their glass from China. And so when like shipping prices from China went up about 600% within a few months
That's
during,
nuts.
yeah, it was crazy. Like from the time that I was about to place, well, from the time I placed my order to manufacture, the time that I paid my invoice for shipping, it had gone up 600%. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
unreal.
so all of the, the Vancouver-based distributor, they're completely, dealing with the same issues,
Right.
and they couldn't pivot by looking locally because there isn't really anything locally. And so, it further drives home Nate and my like, principal reason for being, which is that, we really need more robust local networks of, especially for the things that are fundamental to our survival.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. I mean, I think the world, because of what everything has happened, and not just, Canada, but places in the US and different places, everyone's kind of stepped back and said, okay, like we need to develop our own stuff here. We need to put more money into here. We need to, we need to have more control of our stuff at all times,
Absolutely.
because it shows what happened when we don't have control of our stuff.
Mhm.
A business can be gone overnight. Done.
Absolutely. And I think for the last probably like 15 years, a lot of us were kind of like, okay, like, this is like, there's a lot of holes in our supply chain. And in a way, I think that there's definitely some positivity that came over the last couple of years, where I think now it's kind of like in the mass consciousness, like, okay, this is not like some sort of idealistic endeavor or something that, might affect us in the future. This is something that, is happening now and needs to, happen now. That, like, changes need to happen now.
Yeah.
And it's really encouraging to be at markets during this time and see how many people are passionate and motivated and inspired to think differently.
It's almost a good, kind of a good thing all coming together. And what I mean by that is, because now the consumers, because if they've, just customers in general have went through the whole kind of pandemic, the supply chain thing, where they maybe not would recognize it in a business before, but now when they go to the grocery store and you're paying like
Oh,
$6 more for something, like I just was at Shoppers the other day, and like a bag of chips, like a normal bag of chips was $6.95.
right.
Six
Yeah.
dollars and 95 cents. I mean, that's a meal,
Oh, yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, like
Yeah. Well,
so.
I think that's a really good point that you made, because I think that, a few years ago, as manufacturers, you're well aware of the fragilities that exist, but maybe you're able to, band-aid solutions so that it didn't affect consumers as much.
Yeah,
Whereas, yeah, the last couple of years, there was no band-aiding it. It was like, okay, yeah, we're out of this. This is going up 20%. And now, like, you're I'm experiencing a lot more compassion and understanding and appreciation from consumers who are like, okay, yeah, I understand you were out of, you're out of
yeah,
peppers because, yeah,
yeah,
it's challenging keeping everything together.
yeah. It really is. Yeah, it's been a kind of a good wake up call. So, with you guys, I mean, what was like you guys kind of started? Then you started in flea markets almost, right? Or shows, trade shows,
Farmers, yeah, farmer
farmers markets,
markets.
farmers markets. Yeah. So, are they the same, flea markets and farmers markets? I want to get that right. They're
No,
different, right?
no,
Okay. Yeah.
definitely, yeah,
Okay. Got it.
yeah,
Got it. I got
very.
to get my language right on that one, because I
Well,
after I
there's a
said that,
bunch,
like,
yeah,
yeah, flea market.
yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, there's craft markets,
Right.
right, which will have like a wide variety of things that are made locally,
Right.
from skincare and all sorts, and
Got it.
candles and soaps, and I mean those kinds of things will be at farmers markets as well. But yeah, farmers markets will tend to have more like a real food focus.
Got it. Okay.
We'll have farmers there with fresh
Right.
produce,
Right.
whereas craft markets will be all like packaged goods.
Right.
And then Christmas markets are kind of craft markets on steroids.
Right. 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 So you guys went and started in the farmers markets. Then you still do a lot of those, and now you've said you've gotten into some stores, bigger stores now, correct?
Yeah.
So how did that process happen? Now, was it at first when you started at the farmers market? were people buying right away, or was it a bit of a tough one? You were trying to like, you know, tell the story. Here's what it is. Why? What is it is? Or did they start getting, oh, I like this, and tell their friends? And then how did you end up getting into the bigger stores? You're just knocking on doors. So give us the backstory of all this.
Yeah, so well, the first market we did, which was just over a year ago in Victoria, we had to wear masks and we're allowed to do samples. So yeah, that was not a very,
No,
you
how
know,
do you do your type of business when you can't give samples? It's almost
yeah, you can't really
you
do
can't,
it.
right?
It was deflating to say the least. You know, we'd spend all of this time and energy on the back end, and we got these amazing products. We're passionate. We feel like this is on point. We're at the market, the first one, and we're wearing
Right.
masks and no samples. Like trust us. You've never heard of plum ketchup. Trust us, it's good,
Yeah,
but
totally,
you
right?
can't taste it.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
totally, right. That's
and trust me, wearing a mask. I'm wearing a mask. You can't see me, but
yeah, it's
yeah.
about, yeah, exactly. It's about, it probably can't get any worse than that when you're trying to move your type of product.
No, that was like that was the perfect storm. But I'll tell you that the regulations, the very next week, those regulations lifted. And
Right,
so by week 2, we could do tasting and sample, and didn't have to wear a mask.
right,
And so yeah, from early on at markets, as soon as we got, people were reluctant to try because they're new and because there's so many sauces on the
right.
market that was often a standoff. But as soon as people, especially curious people, and as soon as they saw the flavors and they're like barbecue cherry, and oh, it's not made with like artificial flavor. It's actually
Yeah,
loaded with BC cherries and plum ketchup. Like you go to a store and plum sauce. Generally, plums are the seventh ingredient on the list.
yeah, 100%.
So seeing a plum ketchup with plums being the first ingredient, people were intrigued, and then the surprise factor, because people, they're expecting something very fruity and doesn't necessarily have a wide variety of applications in a savory context, like with dinner and whatnot.
Right,
So we got a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'll try it, but cherry, I don't know if I'm going to put like cherries on my sandwich or whatever. But then they try it and they're like so frequently surprised by just the versatility available with
right,
that. And there's an awesome story about how especially Heinz kind of gave us tunnel vision when it comes to what kind of whole food should be used in packaged sauces and condiments. So
right.
yeah, I won't get into that, but there's a reason why, like, almost everything is tomato based, right? And it's very much tied to the industrial
Yeah,
way of looking at food over the last 100 years.
right.
I
Well,
feel like
and I could see that, with those type of products, I mean, their main focus is top line revenue. How do we make the stuff cheapest, the lowest ingredients? If it's not even that healthy, how long can we keep it on the shelf for, 10 years?
exactly,
Not
yeah,
saying it's going to say 10 years, but you know what I
yeah,
mean, right? Like, and so that's just where it's at. They want
yeah.
they see the money there, and
And yeah, and industrial food relies on sameness, right? Everything being exactly the same as well.
right,
So all across the ingredient chain, supply chain, everything has to be exactly the same,
right,
and then the finished products will be exactly the same. Whereas, in the real world, in the real food world, you're making farm to bottle or farm to dinner meals, and one of the beautiful things is, like,
right,
depending on what time of year, what variety of cherry, all these different factors, there's going to be variety.
right.
Yeah,
You guys are kind of like almost in the education business too. Like I look at it.
absolutely, yeah,
The
yeah,
more, the more you educate, the more people are going to try it and stuff. I think like I just like the names even of your guys' stuff. Like the names are pretty intriguing, to actually start to look into.
hmm yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've definitely had a lot of contemplation, talked to a lot of people, and really tried to. That's been a challenge, right? Like figuring out, okay, what is going to um, help people understand that this is novel, but still
Yeah.
something that you can incorporate into your everyday diet.
Right. Do you think what was a challenge for you? And I think I've seen other businesses do this wrong. And I wonder if you guys ran into this challenge. And that is, you have your packaging, but then you're going to go to a supermarket. Did you ever look and be like, okay, did you think ahead and be like, okay, this packaging has got to be for the farmer's market, but then if we move into big box stores, this packaging has got to look, a certain way to be able to attract the consumer's eye, because packaging is not an easy thing to do at all. That's like a
So
really hard part of
that's
business.
that's an awesome question, and you're like, yeah, packaging. Holy smokes! Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on packaging. From the beginning, we always thought tried to create packaging for grocery stores.
Right.
So, last year before we launched, like I spent hours and hours in grocery stores and just kind of trying to visualize our product on the shelf.
Right.
In retrospect, I would say that I didn't do, I did a terrible job of doing that. And I don't think that our packaging does any justice on the grocery store shelves. So we're actually, well, near the end of doing a redesign. And so we're actually, hopefully, by the end of next week, we'll be rolling out our new labels. And so at farmers markets, because we're there and we have that interaction, the there's a lot of room for error.
Yeah, 100%.
And you were there, you got the whole booth, you're
Totally.
talking to people. Yeah, huge room for error at
Yeah.
grocery stores. You have no
Yeah.
margin for error. Very
No,
little margin for error.
because there you're like almost selling yourself and the company, and
Yeah,
then the product's a byproduct, but you
yeah,
can't stand in that grocery store and be like, "Hey, I'm the guy."
yeah. I
You
think
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm excited for these new labels to roll out, and they're just a lot more clear and loud about what the actual product is. So really relying on our product names, which being it's so awesome being able to do farmers markets and supermarket, because we've been trying different product sheets at farmers markets and seeing what really grabs people, what pulls people over without me having to yell and tell them to come over and try.
Right.
And so we've been, the last month we've gotten some really awesome feedback on that level, and so feeling good about the redesign.
That's great. I look at that farmers market as such a great testing ground for so many businesses, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
craft show business, or if you're trying to grow whatever. It's just such a great testing ground to test the waters before you pull the trigger. I remember I
Yeah.
used to travel, and it was one of my super good friends, Kevin Harrington, and he was one of the originals on the Shark Tank show.
Oh yeah.
And I, did a lot of behind the scenes work and helped him build his personal brand and other things like that, and helped them build some of their businesses and stuff. And I would sit in tons of meetings with them, hundreds of different meetings, and people would be doing shares in companies after companies after companies after companies, um, and a lot of the brands that came along that he had done deals with, one of the first things on 80% of them was he would look, got to change the packaging. Right, next one come along, look, great concept, think it can work, got to change the packaging.
Got it. Yeah.
Right, like, so it was so crazy to me to watch that happen over and over and over. Right, so that's how I actually became very skilled in that area, because I seen that so much. Right, so now I look at, I'm not even in the consumer goods business, but I always look at packaging now. Right, I'm like, okay, look at that one. Right,
Oh,
so
nice. Well, maybe I'll send you some of our new label designs and
yeah,
get your take on them. 'Cause, yeah,
100%.
I mean, that's such a valuable skill and such a huge, yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me that would be his first recommendation for most companies, because
Yeah.
it's a challenge, and it's so important.
And then it was interesting because then I would look back and then look at some of them now. And then after they redesigned the package and then look at the old one. And I was like, holy, like it's like night and day. Like,
Right.
like literally night and day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you guys started to move into the bigger stores and started work to get a few accounts in there. How did that happen? How did you start to finally get the first opportunity where somebody would even give you a chance?
Yeah, I mean, so getting into stores so far has been relatively straightforward for
Yeah.
us
Okay.
because they tick so many boxes, and they're so BC grown, and it's the first, I believe the first line of any product where the first ingredient is always a BC grown food.
Right.
So, and then also they tick a lot of other consumer boxes. They're vegan. They work really well with vegan food. They're low added sugar, high, loads of whole foods.
Right.
So store managers have been pretty eager and supportive, and we've had at markets, we've had two Save on Foods managers come try the product, buy bottles, and then quiz us and ask, oh, so what stores are you in? And then at the end be like, oh, well, I'm a manager of Save on Foods. You want to be in Save on Foods? And so that's how that started.
Right.
And then it was like many months of, the listing process with them it
Yeah.
takes quite a while, but once you're there, then
Yeah.
our products now scan at every Save on Foods location. So it's yeah, a good step. Other stores, yeah, similar. I mean, a lot of just persistence and following up, because often they'll be excited out of the gates, and then send them another follow-up email, and I mean, they're busy. They got
Yeah.
thousands of SKUs, right? Or tens of thousands of
Yeah.
SKUs. So I understand it. So um, but it definitely has been a lot of excitement and eagerness from
Yeah.
stores and from store managers. And it's
Right.
easy for them to see how different this is, and how uniquely it supports BC agriculture and BC grown food.
Right.
So getting it off the shelves so far, because I think similarly, because it's so new, it's more challenging to
Yeah.
get off the shelves.
Right. Yeah. I think three things on what you just said I think are important even for the viewers to listen to. I think the first one is you were able to open up the doors faster because you had a uniqueness and a differator with inside the product. I always say to businesses, what's your three differators? I mean, if you only have one, it's still okay, but you need
Yeah,
to be able to you need to be able to hit that home, because if you can't hit that home, business is tough. It's tough to break through. So I think that's such a good learning lesson for people, why it was a little bit easier for you guys. But then I think the second lesson was it wasn't like everything was knocking on your door. Like you said, you had to keep sending emails. You had to keep following up. You had to keep doing that. And I think that everybody watching right now, that's one of the number one skills of even all the entrepreneurs eyeing around that are like super millionaires. The follow up and the persistence is unheard of almost. You just keep doing it
yeah.
and doing it and doing it and doing it, and until that person says, no, no, then there's no reason not to keep going.
So true. One of my mentors has been a cousin of mine who he owns Naked Snacks, and
Okay.
he's been running that for, I don't know, 10 years now. And yeah, that was his number one wisdom, was it's really like 90% of it is persistence. And yeah, the persistence, because yeah, exactly, yeah, it might have been easy or easier to convince a store manager to carry our products. But one of the reasons for that is because on the back end, there's so many added challenges that nobody else has really tried.
Yeah. Right.
And then on the front end, it's so new, so customers, are like,
Yeah.
have never heard of it. So there's it's all going to kind of balance out. But I think, yeah, having something new. I mean, for me, that's really what is motivating for me. Knowing that it's something new, knowing it's new challenges, knowing that I
Right.
can, yeah, have mentorship and seek other people with experience, but ultimately it's a challenge that really nobody. It's like a new challenge, which is really exciting for me
Yeah.
and for my business partner.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are just, education on the front end through, social media hardcore and the different content strategies with inside the market that moves the stuff off the shelves more. So I look at it, it's gonna have to be that front end for you that moves
Yeah,
off the shelf on that side for you.
yeah, absolutely. And doing like in-store demos. I've started to do more in-store demos, but
Yeah,
we so for this year, like we with the new equipment and integrating that into our line and the markets and whatnot, we've been able to sell more than we've been able to produce. So the motivation to do in-store demos has been, less than it will be next year when we've got our line
right.
ready to go and we're able to keep up with a much higher capacity.
Yeah.
And then also the like about probably 3 months ago, it's sometimes hard to look at work that we've done and spend a lot of time on and be like, okay, that's crap. I need to redo it. And so the labels probably about 6 months ago, I was like, okay, yeah, I don't think these are working. We gotta change these. But I tried to kind of silence that voice
Yeah.
as it's like, okay, I got too many other things to do. We have labels, gotta just roll with them. And then like 3 months ago, I was like, no, we can't do this. We gotta redo them. And so that also limited my motivation to do in-store demos and do all these other things until I've got that, kind of foundational piece to a point where I'm like, okay, this is something that I feel like can hold the traction once I build it. Once I build the traction, this can, carry
Yeah.
it.
That's great. I'm glad you said that because that's great learning lessons because I think that is why I know that that's 100% the right call because when you go to market and you know that okay this just isn't quite right yet, there's no point of going to that type of market yet. You can still have some fun in the farmers markets and promote the brand, but
Yeah.
to move into the stores of that caliber and you really want to start to move that, it's like Kevin from the Shark Tank, yeah, packaging has got to be spot on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Packaging. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a hard balance to strike, right? Because we had like our forecast for this year was to be in a lot more stores than we were in. And given the reception, we knew that was available for us.
Right.
With my hustle and with the reception. So that was definitely hard to kind of pull back and be like, okay, we gotta. That's a lot of energy that's going to go into that. And if we sell
Yeah.
that first order to stores, and then it doesn't sell as well as it will with these new labels, that first impression is really valuable. And
Not
yeah,
only
so
valuable, it's everything.
it's everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great lesson. There's a lot of things that we pull back in our business, and my team will say it all the time. One of the major things that I say is, we're not ready there yet. Don't send it. Don't do it. We're not ready there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, I think it's huge, right? Especially, I mean, having that long-term vision is key, right? And looking at the numbers and okay, well, and having like that 2 to 3 year financial forecast and
yeah.
seeing okay, well, the sales that we're going to lose in the next 3 months by delaying this until we've got the labels ready. Okay, that's on the back end. You can see that how that's going to materialize down the road, and then it's easier to make those. It helps make those calls.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah.
Great that you can see that, and be able to, I always say like a lot of small business owners have such linear thinking and sometimes they can't see the hidden costs, like even when we're helping them create onboarding strategies and stuff with people and lead people better. And I'm trying to teach them, like, you don't understand how much you're losing here. If that person leaves or the time you're taking with people, like those hidden costs will kill a small business overnight. But a
Yeah.
lot of small business owners have trouble seeing that part because it's not like right in front of you, like right there,
Oh,
right?
it's hard. It's also I feel like as especially early on when you're doing when you're doing all aspects and
Yeah.
you've got your eye to the nose to the grindstone and you're sweat, labor, and
Yeah.
tears going into it, and then to be able to pull back and be like, okay, like the sunk costs here, I gotta let go of them after. It's like, oh my god, I just just like burnt myself out making this happen. And
Yeah.
now to be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, this I gotta delay this, or you
Yeah.
know, the work that I did was maybe not as was not, didn't give the value that I
Yeah.
thought it was when I was working 12-hour days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's such a great point too, because, I mean, I spend at least an hour and a half, right, a day of just what I call just putting my CEO hat on. Of course, I try and put more of the CEO hat on to run top level business, but an hour and a half a day is just going through all our systems, our processes, our policies, our strategies are all mapped out, looking what worked, metrics, what didn't work, data, how people, like everything, my relationship management system with people, who we sent cards to, who we didn't send cards to. So that's just like, I take everything away and don't even think about the marketing, don't even think about social, don't even think
Yeah,
about R&D. And I go, okay, I got to just do CEO activity right now for this hour and a half, because in the end, this is what's going to grow the company. So
yeah,
don't think about anything else right now. Like I tell myself that, to be honest.
yeah. That's a good idea. I should do that and just gotta block it off. For I mean, I kind of often I really like working on Sundays because like there's not a lot of incoming
Yeah. Yeah.
things happening and not a lot of expectations for me sending things out. So
Yeah.
I guess by default, sometimes Sunday I use that as my day to project and think
Right.
about the bigger picture things. But that's a really good idea to do. If I don't do that, if I find like I spend a period of time when I'm not in that zone, I start to get a lot of feel a lot of anxiety and uncertainty. And I'm just like, okay, I might be getting lots of things done, but how is this fitting into the bigger vision and picture? So it's a good idea to really have that discipline, and every day 1.5 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I think I'm going to try to.
Yeah. No problem. And it's like, because the better you get at that side, let's face it. I mean, the key is if all, we know a lot of parts of our business as small owners as we grow, but it's always okay. Like when we go, who's the next hire? Where do I put them?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean? And then
Huh.
who's the next one and where do I put them? And then who's the next one? And then next thing you know, that you're like, okay, I finally got rid of that one hat. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to wear the financial hat anymore. Oh, great. Oh, I got rid of this hat now. I don't have to look at social media now. Perfect. Got rid of that hat, and eventually you're
Yeah.
like, oh shit, like I only got the CEO hat and two more hats now on.
That's a day I look forward to. I mean, yeah, it's definitely happening, slowly but surely. I got a new person this year who's doing all my markets in Victoria.
Right. Nice.
And so that's been great.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself, last question, where do you see your guys is in the next like 5, 10, 15 years? Where do you see what does your company look like?
Yeah, so 5 years, um, 5 years, a new processing facility in either Penticton or the Lower Mainland,
Right. Nice.
and potentially a secondary. So it'll be a secondary facility. So we'll have the processing facility where it is, and then a secondary facility that is cooking the sauce and bottling and all that stuff, and then
Right.
and then um, and then many more recipes,
Right.
kind of like um,
So
yeah, like
more SKUs, like more
yeah,
more
so yeah,
different units.
more SKUs, and we want to create a line of condiments that allows people to kind of be a one-stop shop for their pantry and for their year-round flavorings. I mean,
Yeah.
not 100%, but that's the idea where kind of anything that somebody's looking for condiments, they can look locally and find this condiment with BC grown food. And then we've also got some other products that will rely on some Alberta ingredients, and kind of expand
Right.
our local to kind of Western Canada. And then and then, yeah, and then, expanding into the States and kind of having a distribution throughout North America. And and for me, yeah, like big thing is wearing one hat or
Yeah.
two hats.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And
Right.
getting my son more involved.
Right.
Getting my son, it's been, it's awesome being able to share it with him. And when he's been at some markets and done
That's
some
awesome.
sales, and so that's been great. And yeah, and that, yeah, but that's definitely for me. I really enjoy wearing the CEO hat and looking forward. And so having,
Yeah.
good people around me that are better managers, which I'm a horrible manager. And I'm not very organized, and I'm generally my default is to think
Yeah.
forward, and so having good managers.
Right. But that's great. So, by the way, that's great self-awareness, and that's the key to success. That self-awareness, and a lot of people I know don't have that self-awareness and can't see that, right? And so, I always like one of the things like what you just said is I often ask everybody around me, what am I doing good and what am I not doing good?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I feel like for a good CEO, you're better off to have one thing you're good at that you're good at, and nine things that you're bad at that you're bad at, than being good at like eight or nine things and not knowing, those one or two things where you're not good at.
if a CEO becomes master in only one thing, they will scale a business. If a
Yeah,
CEO becomes a master of people and understands how to drive teams and then bring community together, you will build. There's nobody that will touch you.
yeah,
There was nobody can touch you. And the great thing is when it comes to the backside, there's not a lot of competition because a lot of people don't operate their businesses that well. So you start to eliminate competition pretty fast when you look at that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very underrated skill, the ability to manage other people. I think, and for me as a young person, I kind of like look down on that as kind of, you know, yeah. But yeah, it's such an underrated skill, and you're totally right. It's the most important
But
skill, and definitely
yeah,
one that I need to constantly, get better at and improve.
when you
Yeah,
look at, when you look at like, say, South by Southwest or one of the big companies, they bring in a CEO to turn the company around and pay them 15 million. It is interesting because I forget which one it was. I think it was I'm not going to put the name out there because it's on the top of my head, but I might get it wrong. So when they brought him in to turn around South by Southwest, he spent 50% of his days, 50% of his days working with all the departments and people for years. He would go in and throw baggage with all the baggage people for hours. He would get in the cockpit and fly around all over with the pilots. He spent
wow,
all the time working with the people, turn the company completely around.
wow, that's a great
So
story and thing to think about.
yeah, you could
Yeah,
just see how that culture would have started to build.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
awesome. This
nice.
this has been great. So where can they find your website, social media stuff, and anyone from BC, they can get where they can get the products also.
Yeah, so our website is slowbottledsunday.com. And likewise, our Instagram handle and Facebook are Slow Bottled Sunday. And a list of our stores in on the island, throughout the Lower Mainland, and a few in the Okanagan are listed on both of those. And then we also ship across Canada. So anyone in
Oh, cool.
Canada, you can go to our website and yeah, we ship across Canada. And then there's also a portable food truck that sells all sorts of Okanagan goodies that travels around southwestern Alberta that is sampling our products and selling them. And yeah, so those are the best places. And then we'll be at the Vancouver Christmas Market from November 13th to December 24th, as well as yeah, some other markets.
Cool. So everybody check them out.
Check us out. Yeah, help us
That's right.
reduce food waste and reimagine what's possible with these amazing BC grown foods.
Totally. And, let's face it, you're putting the healthier stuff into you, the healthy stuff into you. So, I mean, starts to become a bit of a bit of a no-brainer.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's like the most wholesome food adventure, taste adventure you can imagine, because they're like, often you associate these unique flavors with having all these additives in them. But this is like unique flavors that are driven by whole food, that the flavor combinations of these whole foods are what really give them that uniqueness. And so as a byproduct, or one of this byproduct, they're very healthy and very wholesome. And I love, it's so awesome seeing people at market and feeling their excitement for this novel product and and they're like, so many people are like, I would have never thought to combine these flavors together, but they really work. Like so many people are surprised, because they are surprised by how versatile they are. They're like, wow, this really works.
Awesome.
So,
That's
yeah,
cool. That's so
yeah,
cool. That's
it
awesome.
is. Yeah, I love doing markets. I love being in that environment, seeing
Yeah.
all the other, the amazing like vendors in BC, and the amazing, supporters of
Yeah.
BC food. And yeah, it's really inspiring.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's always that energy at those shows too, of different things. We used to do them when I had the gyms, right? We used to do always like lots of shows and
Right.
stuff to promote and stuff like that. And they were always a lot of fun. And then it was funny too, a show, quick story, and we'll get off here, is my friend, used to own a lot of different booths, right? Like bigger ones. And sometimes a guy wouldn't show up. So he would call me, because I was doing a lot of motivational speaking. And, he said, hey, can you come in and put the mic on and talk for the day and sell our like cloth product or sell or whatever. So I would go in and do that and sell. That was always fun, by the way. That was
Yeah,
a lot of
nice.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun being there. I like the energy. Just like the energy just drives you, and
Yeah.
I get to see so many people. It's like, yeah, and meet so many people from different walks of life, different areas. Yeah, we've done markets like, yeah, just all over southwestern BC. So it's, yeah, it's
Amazing.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful interview, by the way.
yeah. Thank you, Shane. It's been great. It's yeah, nice talking to you and getting to know you. And I've never really done it. This is my kind of first interview like this. So yeah.
Oh, really? Well, you did win to no one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did awesome. Well, you get used to it, because this is what you should be doing as a CEO. That's what
Yeah,
that's one of
absolutely.
the things of getting out there more and talking and showing the brand. And and I'll be honest, a little tip for everybody. One of the reasons we grow is because a lot of my team says, Shane's always talking. We're always getting them on podcasts. We're always getting them here. We're always getting them here. He's always
Yeah,
doing stuff, getting in people, and stuff, right? Like if you look at, in the last 2 months, we did 70 podcasts, and people would go, oh, that's a lot. But the amount of business and stuff that we've done, it's it's
right.
it's not hard. I mean, I get on and I
Yeah,
get to talk with great people and make friends. Like, how
totally.
hard is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Right?
yeah. Well, that's yeah. I'm really trying to shift the way I spend my time towards a lot more just in person. I've been doing a lot of markets throughout, and Christmas fairs and whatnot, but yeah, really trying to spend my time getting out rather than behind a computer,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
with all of those, aspects, which were important. But I really want to spend my time, yeah, getting out and talking about our brand and getting to know people. And
True.
yeah,
And when we go back to what we're talking about, that is true CEO activities.
yeah,
That's putting your CEO hat on, right?
yeah,
So, like when we're done the podcast, and it gets downloaded, I don't even, see it again. My team goes and all the covers are put in, the clips are clipped up and sent to you guys to use for some, and it's all distributed and put everywhere and stuff like that. And when I just see it next, it's up everywhere, and they've probably emailed you by tomorrow by the time we've gotten off and stuff like that. So it,
oh,
so
good
I'm
job.
I'm able to
That's
keep focused on, other stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
can do more,
nice.
so I can do more podcasts like this,
Yeah,
right?
perfect. Well, that's great. Well, that's yeah, definitely where yeah, where I'm going is
100%.
and that's really where, like I think you said that earlier. That's it's like, okay, I'm I'm doing my job. Like I got things that are happening without me having my hands on them.
Yeah, it's true. You're 100%. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, by the way. I never thought about that, but I like that scenario. I'm going to
Yeah.
steal that, but I'll give you creds for it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Shane.
Awesome.
Well,
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much. See you guys on the next episode. Talk soon,
right on.
everybody.